Welcome, everyone. I'm Suzanne Dumouchel. I'm the task leader, who is leading actually the support program to build international implementation action plan in the project Fair Impact. I will start with a quick presentation before giving the floor to our speakers for the webinar today. So let me start by sharing my screen. Here it is. So I hope everyone can see it. Is it okay? Yeah, I see. Okay, thank you. Okay, so today the webinar is about Fair National Plan in Germany and National Initiative to Support Fair in Romania. These are the topic. This is the topic that will occupy us for the next 2 hours. I will start with, as I said, a quick introduction about the workshop. Then we will have Sophie Kraft from NFDI to present the National Open Science Plan in Germany. And I'm very pleased to say that together with Sophie, we have also Jörg Schurvetter, the director of the NFDI, to support Sophie in the question. Then we will move for 10 minutes of question regarding clarification, mainly about what Sophie will have presented. Then we move to Romania for 25 minutes with the National Initiative with Andrea and Mihaela. Again, 10 minutes of clarification, and then we will keep 30 minutes to discuss on both models, the key differences, how can it be applied regarding what your own country, and 10 last minutes regarding the next step for this webinar. So let's move on. So a bit of technical details. The workshop will be recorded and available later on YouTube. If you have any question, I kindly ask you to write them in the chat and raise your hand during the question period. So at least we keep track of the question, which will help us also for the report after the webinar. And don't forget to switch off your microphone during presentation, but of course, you can keep your camera on if you want to. So regarding the Fair Impact project, the goal is to expand fair solutions across Europe. It's a project that answers to the call Horizon Infra 2021 EOS 0105 about enabling discovery and interoperability of federated research objects across scientific communities. And the main goal, as I said, is to expand the fair solutions. So it's an EU-funded project of 10 million euros, and which started in 2022, and which gathered 28 partners led by DANS in the Netherlands. So the main overall objective of the project is to realize a fair EOSC by supporting the implementation of fair enabling practices across scientific communities and research output at a European, national, and institutional level. So quite a broad objective. And we aim to do that by first identifying the current and emerging components for enabling the fair, by translate the viable solution guidelines and framework in order to support the application into other domains, and take the next step in implementation by defining the support, governance, and coordination mechanisms that are required in this context. So regarding what is our concern today, so it's an introduction to the Fair National Initiative Support Program, which has been developed actually under the Fair Impact project. And the aim of, so this is the first webinar, is really to support the participant about how to build, how to develop a fair implementation action plan at a national level. So it's not something very easy, because it doesn't concern only an organization or a research center or a data and service provider, but it's really the national overview that is needed. So this is why we prepared a couple of workshops on targeted topics related to this objective. So as I said, the main objective is to draft a fair implementation action plan for the dedicated participants that have been accepted into the support program. We start with the objective, what can be the action of this plan, what are the milestones, who can take which role and responsibility into this objective, and what can be the key priority of the action and the milestones. So This is here the planning of the different workshops. So we start today with the Fair National Plan in Germany and Romania. And then we will move to, I don't present everything because you can see the slide, but we move to different topics, how to engage the researcher with fairness, how to include the publication in the Fair Action Plan, the competencies, what can be the data management example, the French data management example, how to assess the fair enabling capabilities with each time dedicated mentors that are here to support the applicants of the program. And in October, at the end of the support program, there will be exit interview to better understand the progress made by the different applicants. So let's go into the details with an introduction to the keynote speaker we have today. So first we have, as I said, Sophie Kraft, who is the scientific officer at the German National Research Data Infrastructure. We have also Andrea Popa, who is an expert in open science at the Romanian Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding, and Mihaela Cucu, expert in open science at the Romanian Executive Agency, so the same one as Andrea. So both of them represent the Romanian context. So what we aim to do today is to present you two national initiatives that support the FAIR. And what we expect is that based on these two presentations, you will be able to better understand and maybe better ask you how to build this kind of roadmap, this kind of national overview in the perspective of a fair implementation action. And then, there will be the open discussion, and I think, it's the next step. So now I can stop sharing my screen, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Sophie for an FDI for the first presentation of 25 minutes. Sophie, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my slides. Can you see it?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so thank you for the introduction and also for the possibility to let me present you the National Research Data Infrastructure in Germany, which is a bottom-up approach to implement the FAIR principles in Germany. So to start my presentation, I would like to cite the FAIR guiding principles, where it is said that more and more research results are achieved by using already existing research data. So there's a huge potential that should be used. And it is also said that, however, significant efforts are still required to find the right data set, understand it, and use it for the purpose at hand. So this is where we come to the FAIR principles. So that the research data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, so that the research data can be used in a more efficient way. And with this in mind, also the story of NFDI started. So I want to give you a short glimpse on the history of NFDI. In 2016, the German Council for Scientific Information Infrastructures recommended to build a national research data infrastructure in Germany. And the politics actually followed this recommendation. So in 2018, the Joint Science Conference, in short GWK, agreed on building the NFDI in Germany. So the Joint Science Conference, just to explain it, is a conference where the ministers and senators of the federal government and the Länder that are responsible for science, research, and finance are coming together to deal with questions regarding the science system. And that I decided to build the NFDI. And so from 2019 until 2020, the preparation phase started to found the association. So it was decided to locate the directorate of the association in southern Germany, in Karlsruhe. The first staff was recruited, and the staff also already started working. And then on the 12th of October 2020, the NFDI Association finally was founded. And today, this association has 279 members. There are over 1,000 people involved. There are 26 consortia and one basic services initiative and 5 sections addressing cross-cutting topics. So as you can see, there has been quite a growth in NFDI in the last 3 years. This map shows the distribution of the member organizations across Germany. Members in the association can only get legal entities such as universities, research institutions, service providers, and so on. And most of the members are also involved in the NFDI consortia. And at the moment, there are no member fees. And last year, we had the possibility for the first time to have the General Assembly in person, because as NFDI was founded during the pandemic, there wasn't the possibility to meet in person. So we had a lot of virtual meetings. And so it's nice that we now have the possibility to actually meet in person. So NFDI involves 26 consortia and one union of consortia, which is called Base for NFDI. And the consortia were selected in a science-led process managed by the German Research Foundation, short DFG. And as you can see in the picture, the consortia cover diverse scientific disciplines. So from cultural sciences, social sciences, humanities, and engineering to life sciences and natural sciences. The NFDI consortia have been kicked off in 3 funding rounds. The first round has been funded since October 2020, the second round since October 2021, and the third round since March 2023. This picture shows how the consortia are connected to each other due to overlapping consortial partners. So there are close links existing between the consortia and between institutions, and they are being further expanded. So the consortia work together in various activities and contexts. And the advantages are clear. I mean, there are more resources, there's the ability to think along with different disciplines. You can get new perspectives. And that's why we prefer joint solutions instead of isolated solutions. And as already mentioned, the NFDI Association has 5 sections. So sections identify cross-cutting topics, which are relevant for all or at least many of the consortia. And these sections, to build these sections, there was a strategy process with all the consortia to select which sections should be built. And yeah, so I would like to show you what the sections are doing. So we have the section metadata, terminologies, and provenance, which aims for a cooperative definition of top-level ontologies, concepts, and recommendations for the harmonization of metadata and terminology services, and the definition of cross-disciplinary minimum information standards. Then we have the section Common Infrastructures, which aims to identify, design, and build collaborative components and their interoperability. The section Training and Education has the goal to create a common platform for teaching materials as a knowledge base, and teaching data literacy and FAIR concepts at all educational and competency levels. Then the section Ethical, Legal, and Social Aspects wants to develop a common understanding in NFDI of legal, ethical, and social topics across all the consortia. And last but not least, the section Industry Engagement works on the establishment of a continuous, open and trustful exchange between NFDI and business actors, and wants to identify and address jointly prioritized problems together with these business actors. So, and then we have the Joint Basic Service Initiative of all NFDI consortia, which I already mentioned, based for NFDI. A basic service is a technical organizational solution that includes storage and computing services, software, processes, workflows, and also the necessary personal support. And basic services shall create added value for the consortia and their users. So a basic service could be, for example, an authentication and authorization infrastructure. And Base for NFDI coordinates and establishes basic services for all consortia and sections according to defined participative processes within the association. And the NFDI sections thereby act as like incubators for continuously identifying potential basic services. And in its work, Base for NFDI is building on existing solutions and is complementing EOSC to avoid double structures. So here you can see the 3 basic services that are already in development. So we have the service IAM for NFDI, which is concerned with connecting and expanding existing and emerging identity and access management systems in a way that researchers from different domains and institutions are able to access digital resources within NFDI as easily as possible. So the goal is a standardized access to data, software, and computing resources for collaborative work. And this service actually is about to enter the next development phase. Then we have the service PID for NFDI. So there are different requirements and levels of maturity in PID implementation across the different scientific disciplines. And so this service has the goal to establish proven PID infrastructures. The TS4 NFDI is a cross-domain service for the provision, curation, development, harmonization, and mapping of terminologies. So in short, the goal of this service is the harmonization and consensus building of NFDI relevant terminologies. And all these aspects lead to the vision of NFDI, which I would like to read out to you. So the vision is data as a common good for excellent research, organized by science in Germany. So, and as the NFDI is a science-led process, especially the part organized by science in Germany is important. And this vision also, yeah, it was a common achievement of various stakeholders within NFDI. And this was really necessary to make sure that the NFDI community is standing behind this vision and is working towards it. Yes. Right. I now want to come to the learnings we made throughout the development phase of NFDI. So there's a huge heterogeneity of scientific fields and consortia. So translation work is needed between the different fields, and the consensus building sometimes takes a bit longer. Then there are these 3 funding rounds of consortia. So the consortia had different starting times, and there are different communities with individual conditions and requirements. So it needs a lot of coordination and communication to get everything aligned. And then we have the different steering mechanisms, where There is the politics on the one hand side, which is organized top-down, versus the bottom-up approach of NFDI on the other hand side. So it is really important to meet in the middle and work on a mutual understanding to be successful in building the infrastructure. Yeah, and based on these learnings, we thought about which recommendations we could give you. So the first recommendation is the bottom-up approach with a demand and user-oriented design to ensure that the infrastructure actually will be used. Then our next recommendation is to work towards a common identity, which we like to call one NFDI, but don't ever take it as granted. And the last recommendation is to include many scientific fields because this leads to a knowledge transfer and faster learning and gives you a high concentration of expertise, which is always a win. Yes, and with this, I come to the end of my presentation and thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. It was very, very clear, and it answers completely to the needs, especially to explain how you build the NFDI and the different approach, and finishing with the recommendation is really great. Thank you. And I see others agree with me, so that's great. Do we have question of clarification? I don't see any in the chat. But if there are burning questions, really to clarify some aspect, not to go into how to build a national plan. Yes, Shukri, please.
Yes, problem. Thank you, Sophie, for the great presentation. Very.
I think we cannot hear you, at least me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's much better. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Sorry for that. Thank you very much, Sophie, for the great presentation and the very detailed presentation. And very simple, but very comprehensive presentation and thematic. So with some very complicated process and approach. So my question is about whether in your vision you have to make the priority for legal or for practice practice issues. So I mean, if you don't have any legal approach of text or legal legal basic in which you have to coordinate your effort between those consortia, do you use the practice or it's totally the next steps? I mean, you start by prioritizing the practice and use the legal approach.
Yeah, Sophie, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got the question right.
Yeah, I think the question is more, have you started with the legal approach, or have you built first from the practices, and then from that you have established the legal approach? So which was the first step?
I think it was quite parallel, but maybe Jörg has another answer. But I think we had the consortia on the one hand, as I mentioned, and the association also was built. And the consortia, especially the first round, already started working before the foundation. And I mean, there was already developments before NFDI, and the association was built to bring all this together. And I don't know, I think it was quite in a parallel way, but maybe, I don't know, Jörg, you will add something.
Jörg, do you want to add something?
Yes, thanks for the question and the first answer, which is a very good answer. Now, the time before Sophie, the time that Sophie is knowledgeable, this goes back more than 10 years ago, frankly spoken. And at that point of time, there was a discussion round which led to the foundation of this Council for Information Infrastructures, the RFII, which then, as a first recommendation in 2016, proposed to build an NFDI. So from that perspective, it was a grassroots approach because researchers and research infrastructure people were discussing what is the future of the data infrastructure. And in fact, I think they were ahead of their time, given that nowadays we have all this artificial intelligence building up on solid data, on high qualitative data. And so to answer your question in that way, first there was this initiative sorting out what do we need, and then the legal process started on the political level. Now, if you transport this into today's situation, then I think we have a different situation because it is so obvious that we have to take care about the data, and we don't need this process for answering the question, what do we need? I think that it has become much clearer now. And so decisions are nowadays can be done faster also on the political level. I hope this answers your question. Yeah.
It seems. Thank you. And then we have a question for Joanne. I don't know if you want to say it aloud, Joanne, or shall I read it? Or
yeah, could I just, before we go to my question, could I ask for a bit more on that last question? Because I was also wondering what it meant to be a member of the association. Was it just to get support early on that this would happen, or is there some kind of commitment from members of the association? Because I saw there was no membership fees required. So what is there a legal agreement with them for this, or yeah, what does it mean to be an association member?
I can start. So yeah, there is like a legal agreement, but only it's basic. So they have to agree to our statutes and the goals of the association. And to be a member is especially important if you want to be included in all the developments. So members can take part in the section, be involved in the sections, and only members can do this. So otherwise you can't work in the sections. And also the consortia are like mirrored in the association, and the members are also part of the the consortia. I mean, that's a bit too deep in detail, but yeah, there are consortia according to the statutes and so on. So there's a bit of a complex construct, but the members are also involved in the consortia, and so they get I think they get like more information what really happens inside the association, and that's what it's interesting to get a member. Yeah, that's the answer.
Maybe I can add a little bit.
Yeah,
a perspective. So it was a little bit hidden in the presentation because we tried to abstract a little bit from certain complexities. But one thing which has to be clear if you ask these kinds of questions, it's two separate streams that started. The one stream is where consortia founded themselves, generated their vision of what has to be done for a particular scientific domain, and then they have, in a process, they have been evaluated and then chosen by external referees, And then they started their work for their domain. Like, for example, NFDI for chemistry or NFDI for biodiversity, and there are many others. And so they started to work in their domain, and they get their money separately from the NFDI association. The association has been built up, and this is the second pillar, you could say, to coordinate the activities of all the individual consortia and to bring them together. And now I think it is fair to say, after 3 years of ramping up the whole thing, we now are in the situation that the consortia are up and running. So domain-specific solutions are being created. And we will see with the basic services, first cross-cutting services that sit on top or underneath, however you like it, all these domain-specific applications. And by that, we hope that all the researchers have the best possible access to the individual domain-specific services. Because for interdisciplinary work, we might need to join these services, for example, and also people from other domains might want to access services from other domains. And therefore, we have, for example, the identity management and access management service, so that it's very easy to access these services if you are eligible, of course. And there's a restriction. If there's no restriction and you don't need to register, then just do your work, you could say. But this brings it all together, in fact. And so therefore we have these two pillars, and more we are now in the situation of making it one big pillar, you could say, where things fit together and we draw a big picture. But it is noteworthy that there was this grassroots approach in the various domains that is now up to speed. And the association is the place where we bring all the bits and pieces together to coordinate this in a strategic way. So for us in the association, it's mainly the strategic path which is of concern. And we support the consortia in ramping up and in doing their stuff, but they do the content work for the individual communities. And jointly, we organize knowledge exchange between the different communities, for example. So the social science and behavioral sciences have deep knowledge in how to deal with sensitive data, which is regulated by GDPR, for example. And now more and more communities have the same issues. How do we grant access to personal sensitive data regulated by GDPR? And so we try to have an exchange of how this can be done. And there are so many more examples. Other communities are really good in scaling up technical solutions to terabytes and petabytes. And so they can transfer their technical knowledge into this domain. And this is actually where it all comes together. I hope this makes it a bit more clear here.
Yes, thanks, York and Sophie. I think that partly answers my question about the bottom-up approach, because I think the consortia define what they're going to work on themselves, then more or less, and if I understand it right. But then do you define what consortia there should be, or is that also from the community that?
So there was an open call for proposals in 3 rounds, and I think they started work in 2019, I think it's fair to say, and then they wrote their proposals, they were selected and evaluated, and then in 2020 the first round of consortia kicked off. That was 9 consortia, and then the next year again 10, and then again another ones, and now it's 26.
Okay. It wasn't comprehensive at the beginning, but now, because now it looks pretty comprehensive. Okay.
Yes. So it's 3 rounds of consortia, and they were chosen in a competitive. It wasn't competitive. It was only competitive with respect to their own proposal. So they weren't competing against each other. There was room for more. There was room for more proposals to be funded at the end of the day. The number that was always communicated was up to 30 consortia can be funded, but only 26 of them passed the threshold of the evaluation committee. But they defined what does our community need so that research data can be provided according to the FAIR principles in the best possible ways, and what are the challenges that we have to solve. And I would like to make an example from which is my so in the cultural sciences, for example, it's a lot of legal questions. It's about how can we use modern art in our research. It's about legal issues and licensing and where to get the money for that, or do we get a discount for paying all these licenses, for example. And that is a completely different challenge to Daphne, for example, which comes from the physical science, where the question more is like we do observations from the stars, and we have to deal with the fact that the data that we generate are so massive that we cannot store everything. At the same time, every time we look at the stars, this moment cannot be repeated. So whatever we throw away is lost. We can never replicate that. How do we deal with that? And we have 26 consortia, and every single one has a different major challenge to solve for the individual community. But at the end of the day, it's about the data. It's about the data and how to use it in the best possible, how to make it accessible. And by joining the forces, we have, in an idealistic scenario, we have to answer every question just one time, and then we can transfer the answer to other communities.
So we still have 3 questions before moving to the next presentation. So you have 7 minutes to answer to the 3 questions, Sophie and Jörg. The first one comes from Marta Teprek, saying that you mentioned that NFDI is organized by and for academic community, and she's wondering about the joint section on business actors. So how do businesses contribute to NFDI and vice versa, and are they part also of the consortia? So that would be the first one. I will raise the other one next. So.
Yeah. So in the section, I mean the section industry engagement, I think. Yeah, there's a business council involved, but there are no members in the section from industry. So they don't have any voting rights in the sections, and we don't have any members as well in the association from the industry. But yeah, there is this business council because the section needs to get in touch with the industry to talk about the questions how the research data from industry can be used also for research and yeah, for the science. And I think, yeah, so that's why they are involved in this section, and why this question is important for NFDI as well. It's important to not only look on the research data from science, but also from industry and government and so on. And yeah, that's why they are involved. And in the consortia, there are not, I don't think there are many business partners involved. I only know one consortium where there's also one enterprise in the council, but not actively involved, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe to further strengthen this view. So the funding is only available for academic partners. That was made very clear from the very beginning. But at the same time, about half of our consortia very soon expressed that they do research very closely together with industry. Like the engineering, for example, they said without industry, we cannot do our research. So we have to collaborate and find ways to do so. Many consortia set up like industrial boards that somehow are interacting with what is happening, and one consortium that is like like a single case that was actually driven by the need of industry. So it was huge chemical industry partners that said we would like to see a consortium that takes care about the standardization of metadata in an open and academic driven way, because that's much better for us as industrial partners, because we would never be able to find a very the best possible solution, because everybody has its own business in mind, and so why don't research so is a bit with a blinking eye. But at the end of the day, it was a strong proposal from industry to create this consortium, and they're collaborating strongly together. It's NFDI for catalysis. And so this is a quite unique example, I think. But at the end of the day, more and more consortia said, well, we have to find a way how to collaborate with industry because they have so valuable data, and we would like to be able to access the industrial data as well. And industry, on the other hand, says it's really cool what you're doing, and what can we learn from you, and how can we maybe apply FAIR principles also inside of our own organizations. Because more and more companies realize that data is value, and so they try to come up with solutions also internally. And when we say, well, fair data is not necessarily open data, it's a different story. But if your data is fair inside the company, your company will benefit from that. And then maybe at the end of the day, you will also make some of the data available to the outside as open data, but this is your decision. And this partially answers the question about data sovereignty. Which is not just about researchers, but also for companies. So it's always the question, how can the data be enriched according to the FAIR principles, made available in the best possible way? And then the second question is, how open can it be shared, the data and the metadata? So sometimes the data is private. This is GDPR regulation, for example, but sometimes even the metadata is private. This is in the engineering sciences, for example, where commercial issues prevent from publishing metadata about what they are doing. And we have to take this as granted in realistic scenarios. And so therefore we founded the section industry engagement to jointly with industry discuss how can we come together and what are the joint initiatives that we can kick off.
It's a very good one actually to start the discussion.
I'm not sure, Suzanne, but your audio is not good.
You cannot hear me? Is it okay now?
Difficult.
Yeah, difficult? Oh, why?
Now it's much better. Now it's better.
Okay. So may I ask you, Jörg and Sophie, to answer in the chat to the two questions from Maureen, because these should be quite easy to answer quite quickly. And we will keep the question from Nene for the discussion, because I think it can be a very good question to start the discussion after the Romanian presentation. So, okay, thank you very much. And yeah, so thank you, Jörg and Sophie. And now I would like to invite Mihaela and Andrea for the presentation on the Romanian overview. Please, Andrea, Mihaela.
Thank you, Susanne. Andrea will help me to share the presentation. I will start. Next slide, please. Okay. I will start by defining the general framework of the research system in Romania, coordination, funding, and relevant stakeholders. The public institution responsible for organizing and coordinating the Romanian system of research, development, and innovation is the Ministry of Research, Innovation, and Digitalization, under the direct authority of the Romanian government and closely collaborating with the Ministry of Education and the Romanian Academy. Its activities are directed through the National Strategy on Research, Innovation, and Smart Specialization, now for the period 2022 to 2027, and implemented according to the National Plan for Research, Development, and Innovation. The key actors of the system are the research funding organizations, administrating the research funding programs of the national plan. One of these organizations is our organization, FCDI. There are also research performing organizations that are private and public entities. Among public organizations, we have 53 universities, 46 national research and development institutes coordinated by the Ministry of Research, performing applied research, and another 60 research institutions under the authority of the Romanian Academy on basic research. There are also support organizations and UEFI-CBI is one of these, is a public institution subordinated to the Ministry of Education of Romania, working closely with the Ministry of Research, with complex tasks, ensuring both the conduct of studies that underpin the process of distribution of public funds for university and the coordination from an administrative point of view of sub-programs and sub-programs of the National Plan for Research. My institution fully manages 3 and partially another 4 founding lines of the National Plan for Research. The institution has also a twofold mission, that of policy advice for research and higher education, and the research support organization, providing support for the research and academic community in implementing RDI policies. UEFI-CBI has been active since 2014 as a promoter and supporter of open science, and in 2018 within the institution a dedicated department, Open Science Knowledge Hub Romania, was created. It is the main contact point for open science in terms of policy advice, engagement, capacity building, actions, being the national support desk for open science. Experts from Open Science Knowledge Hub collaborate and have an active involvement in activities of the key open science European initiatives. For example, in order to provide open science policy support, Open Science Knowledge Hub collaborates with Science Europe and the Council for National Open Science Coordination, CONOSC, is the signatory of Action Plan for Diamond Open Access, Coalition for Reforming Research Assessment, and also one of the DORA signatures. UEFI-CBI is closely involved in UNESCO open science activities through the UNESCO Chair for Science and Innovation Policies. Our expert contributed to UNESCO recommendation on open science and elaborated the Romanian version of the recommendation. In our role as a policy advisor, we were involved in the development of the National Strategy on Research, Innovation and Smart Specialization for the timeframe 2022 to 2027 and the National Plan. In the context of a project funded by the European Structural and Investment Funds, the National Strategy on Research was adopted in July 2022, representing an important step that Romania took in the transition process towards open science by introducing for the first time a specific objective dedicated to open science. The National Plan for Research, Development and Innovation, adopted also in 2022 in September, as the main research funding instrument for implementing the strategy, includes RDI financing programs and types of projects proposed to be financed and which support open science. That is one of the 10 principles mentioned in the plan. Moreover, as part of this complex initiative, our institution was mandated to develop the national framework for open science. The white paper on the transition to open science, which was launched in December 2022, 22 and details the implementation of the open science principles, challenges, and actions of the specific objective of the national strategy of research. The national strategy, on next slide, about the national strategy for research, the actions dedicated to open science included in the objective 1.2, called ensuring the transition to open science and facilitating the road towards excellence in scientific research, are the following. Open access mandatory to all the publicly funded research publications, including eligibility of necessary costs, introducing the DMP's requirements, ensuring fair data and open access to research data, which should be promoted according to the principle as open as possible, as close as necessary, and the associated costs with the research data management will be considered eligible cost. The infrastructures should receive support for the development of and implementation of DMPs, promoting and supporting the existing and new infrastructure, digital repositories and services that support open science, in order to ensure the long-term storage of open access publications and research data. There are also provisions related to citizen science, national support mechanisms for the transition to open science, development of open science specific skills and competencies for the researchers, and adoption of new research and career evaluation metrics. The national plan for research, development and innovation, the main open science related provisions are support for open science practices, open access and fair data, improving the institutional performance of research organization by supporting and developing existing research skills at the institutional level. There will be institutional development projects proposed to be financed, namely the development of the institutional capacity for implementation of open science practicing, including implementing fair data. Open science publication of scientific publication, as well as preparation of the research data resulting from the scientific research activities in order to publish and ensure open access to data, supporting the participation of Romanian entities in the development of the EOSC. The aim of the project is the development and integration of infrastructure, services, and digital repositories for open science into EOSC. About the open science strategy development process. The development of the recommendations was initiated in 2019 by the experts of Open Science Knowledge Hub. We started the drafting of the strategic recommendations from the international relevant open science experience, and the approach, the development was based on a consultation process initiated in 2020 and organized in several stages through a series of workshops dedicated to identifying Romania's strategic options on open science. The first one was in March 2020, an in-person participation event, and after that we had to organize several online dissemination events due to COVID pandemic. as well as 2 national surveys on the understanding of the needs and the level of familiarity with the open science practices among the Romanian academic and the research community. The National Strategic Framework for Open Science is also based on open science analysis and supporting documents, which are now published on the national portal dedicated to open science. My colleague Andrea will give you more details about the portal in a few minutes. The first draft of the document, the Green Paper, was launched in public consultation in the summer of 2022. The feedback was integrated in the final form of the strategic document, which is the current white paper. We have here the results of the consultation on the Green Paper. Open science and APCs seem to be the most important topics for the respondents. We identified the lower interests in FAIR because the respondents do not know the process. Our conclusion was that we need to raise awareness about the implementation of the FAIR principles, what the FAIR principles involves, and that the research community is cautious to ensure open access to data because there is no practice on this. We are at the beginning, models are needed for this, and training is needed. The white paper, the strategic document on open science defines a vision for the time horizon of 2030, the objectives and the necessary actions to achieve this vision in correlation with the international open science policies and the recommendations. 8 strategic objectives have been detailed with the corresponding actions proposed to be implemented at the national level. The strategic objective 2 is one related to data and the FAIR principles. Research data management and ensuring open access to research data. This objective details the actions needed so that research data management can become a standard scientific practice in the research process while generating, collecting, or using data. It states that responsible data management must be based on mandatory DMPs, ensuring compliance with the FAIR principle, and open access to data must be ensured in compliance with the principle as open as possible and as close as necessary. The other objectives are ensuring open data to scientific publication resulting from publicly funded research, ensuring transparency and equity on the APCs and of the cost of accessing international scientific databases, developing the infrastructure and services for open science, capacity building to implement open science, adapting the process of research assessment and rewarding in the new context of open science, and of course involving citizen science, citizen in science, citizen science. Now I'll go into more details about the concrete actions for strategic objective 2 that supports the implementation of FAIR data. The proposed actions refers to introduction, the obligation to continuously develop and update the DMPs in accordance with FAIR principles and open access to data. Ensuring open access to research data and metadata as soon as possible and within the timelines established in the DMP. Research data should adhere to FAIR principles and be easily identifiable through persistent and unique identifiers. The cost associated to research data management should be eligible in funding contracts for publicly funded research projects. It is recommended to manage and make other research outputs fair and as open as possible, such as software, models, algorithms, and so on. And further, my colleague will present the first steps that our institution takes in the process of implementation of the strategic recommendation for open science and related to fair data.
Thank you, Mihaela, for giving me the floor. I am Andreea Popa. I'm part of the UEFI team on open science, and I will discuss a little bit about the steps that we did in order to implement FAIR at national level. So, as I said, as Mihaela already said, UEFI through Open Science Knowledge Hub provides support for the implementation of the national RDI strategy by correlating with the actions of the projects in which we have been or we are partners. Some of these projects are support actions for the integration of services and infrastructures in IOSC. UEFI and also the Hub is an open-air NOAD contributing to improving access to information and supporting actions related to open science. It is also an RDA node, participating as the national representative in the Pan-European Research Data Alliance network. UEFI is also the coordinator of the National Open Science Cloud Initiative, on short RONOSCI, alongside with two other research institutes. And this initiative was created within an Horizon 2020 project called NIFOS Europe. We are also part of FAIR Impact project, based on which we are together today. And last year, we became also partners in projects which support the overall open science framework, research assessment, and the research career. And those projects are Secure, Opus, and GRASP-OS. On the Opus project, UEFI will pilot a personalized plan of indicators and metrics that promote open science principles. In GRASP-OS, UEFI will also pilot personalized indicators for the assessment of researchers' careers. And Secure project, Secure project will support the creation, testing, implementation, and integration of a common research career framework. Regarding RONOSCI, as I said, it was part of NIFOS project. The project supported the development of the European Open Science Cloud in Southeastern Europe region. And as part of the project, UEFI, together with the National Institute of Research and Development in Informatics and National Institute for Research and Development for Physics and Nuclear Engineering, established the National Open Science Cloud Initiative. RONOSCI is a coalition of a national level organization with the aim of establishing the national cloud for open science in the context of IOSC ecosystem development. RONOSCI was created based on a memorandum of understanding, does not have a legal personality, and joining this coalition does not imply financial commitments. The activities within RONOSCI are outlined in the memorandum of understanding. The first meeting of the coalition took place in 2021. And it was established official in July 2021. Currently, we have 27 organizations as part of RONOSCI, 22 members and 2 observers, and the 3 coordinators. But the process of joining is still open. Organizations interested in joining RONOSCI can opt for either member or observer status. but both members and observers must meet the following criteria: to have a legal personality and carry out activities in Romania, and belong to one of the categories, the following categories: founding or policy-making organizations for research activities, organizations engaged in research activities, providers of specific services that support research activities, or other organizations that could contribute to achieving the objectives of Ronoști. Ronoști has three main objectives. The first one is to contribute to identifying and utilizing methods and technical means dedicated to establishing and managing a national infrastructure of resources and services specific to the Open Science Cloud and compatible with IOSC. The second one is to create synergies at the national level among organizations with roles and interest in IOSC. And the third one is to provide support regarding the definition and implementation of open science and open science cloud policies to align with European recommendations. As part of the activities carried out, we conducted a mapping of the points of interest of Ronoști members regarding the main topics associated with open science, and currently it has been revealed that there are an increase interested in DMPs, data management plans, FAIR data, and the implementation of FAIR principles. After this mapping, understanding their needs, we have intensified discussions with them on the topics of interest, particularly in data management plan, and we provide them with support documents, guides, templates, and recommendations for tools that they can use in their activity. To facilitate this and to have discussions on specific topics, another step taken by the Hub was the creation of the open science community on the BrainMap platform. BrainMap platform brings together the majority of researchers and entrepreneurs from the innovation ecosystem, providing access to expertise and results of RDA activities in Romania. This was recently launched in October 2023, and there the Open Science team from UEFI-CDI will keep the community informed about the last developments in open science, relevant international events, and those organized by us. It is also provides a space for discussions on topics of interest that can be expressed also by the community members. And currently we have 878 members in this community. In the process of providing national support and being the main connector with international initiatives regarding open science, the Hub has taken another step in this direction by creating a dialogue platform for disseminating relevant information and discussing the needs of the scientific community, decision makers and other stakeholders interested in open science. This was achieved by developing the Open Science Portal as a single point for resources and updates. Also associated with DMP's subject, in addition to the support provided to the community, we are taking the first steps in implementation by piloting, testing the introduction of requirements related to DMPs and FAIR data in founding programs. The first testing is of the introduction of DMPs is the founding instrument, Centers of Excellence, that was launched actually yesterday at the end of January. Centers of Excellence will be established as research units without legal personality on the basis of a partnership between research teams from a minimum of 4 RPOs with a common research and innovation agenda and plan. In this call for Center of Excellence, there are requirements regarding describing the open science practices foreseen in the project and outlining the research data management aligned with FAIR data. These are required only for the founded projects. During the project proposal evaluation stage, these requirements are taken into consideration as part of the excellence evaluation criteria. Implementing data management plan involves a series of intervention at institutional level, such as modification to our project submission and results monitoring platforms. And all these interventions associated with DMPs are developed and monitored through Opus project, in which we are partners. For future activities, we aim to continue to develop the Open Science portal and the Open Science community within BrainMap to promote open science support among Ronoști members, and also to offer support for raising awareness and capacity building for open science. And that's all from our side. Thank you for being here today.
Wow, thanks a lot, Sandra and Mihaela. It was really great, and it's really interesting to see already the differences and the complementarity between the two models. But in any case, I think both are really based on the needs of the communities. So even if they are not addressed in the same way, so that's already something interesting. But before going to the discussion, I would like to ask whether we have a clarification question for Mihaela and Andrea about the Romanian model. Do you have anything you want to clarify, you need to better understand? I know it was already clear, but maybe at some point you want some precision on a specific aspect. So do we have a specific question?
I have a question. I didn't see the feature to raise my hand, so I just speak up.
Please, Clementine.
Thanks a lot for the comprehensive presentation. So in one of your initial graphs, you showed that you have universities on one hand, other public research institutes on the other hand, and also institutes related to the Romanian academy. And I was wondering to what extent you managed to reach 3 types of groups. So I don't know what is the link of WICID in its work with, for instance, Romanian Academy, and how much you managed to reach to all these different actors.
We try to invite in our process and in the different stages of our process the representatives of all these categories. Yes, there are research institutes under the authority of the Ministry of Research, and also the Romanian Academy. And in our process, we send information and invite all these categories to participate in workshops, to respond to our surveys. We keep permanently keep them informed. Yes, it's not easy to address all of these categories, but we try to manage this. Sometimes the response is not as we expect to, but we try to manage this. I'm not sure if I answered your questions.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Any other burning question? Really focus on the clarification of the presentation? No? Okay, great. So thank you. So now we have heard the 2 presentations, with the one model from Germany with an FDI, and another model from Romania with Ronoști. So I think it's time to discuss and maybe to address some of the differences, and maybe to check how this model can be applied or not? What would be the difference regarding your own context? If you had to set up this kind of organization within your country, how would you like to start? And these two presentations can help you to start, actually. So these are the first questions to open the discussion, but maybe we can start first with the question from Nene, which was, where it is, let me find it again. Yeah, here. So it was based on the Germanian example, but I would like to have actually the two, also to hear from Andrea and Mihaela on this question. So the question was, one of your recommendations is to gather user demand and design before any implementation. From your experience, can you recommend an approach to be used to gather user requirements between consortium members? So here it's really focused on Germany, but it would be interesting also to know from Andrea and Mihaela, what would be your recommendation regarding a user requirement, addressing the user requirement for what you are building. So Jörg, Sophie, can you start on your side, and then we can hear from Mihaela and Andrea, please.
I can start. So there's actually a bandwidth of methods that have been used, and the more technically oriented consortia, they use methods that are well known in software engineering, like requirements analysis and requirements engineering, which is an elaborated process to gather requirements for software especially, but it can also be used for different purposes. I would say in most consortia, it was just intense discussions, especially during the stage when they wrote the proposals. That was when they tried to come up with what is our ultimate challenge for digitization in our scientific domain and for making data available according to the FAIR principles. What is it really that we have to solve as a big challenge? And mostly that was done by workshop formats where the people were meeting and discussing, following an agenda. However, when it now comes more and more to the running consortia, they use formal approaches like requirements engineering according to the specific needs. So if it's for software and prototypes, it's the technical requirements engineering. If it comes for requirements on a more generic level, it's typical workshop formats.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Nene, you want to? Yes, please do.
No, it's okay. It's clear. I understand. So you did that basically through discussion and workshop with other members of the consortia. It will be an approach. Thank you.
And on your side in Romania, Andrea or Mihaela, can you tell us how you do to address what is your methods to address the user requirement? Is it with the Brain Sync platform, for instance, or how? Yeah, yeah, please.
Until the open science community in BrainMap, we used the open science portal because it was the first one that we did in order to be more close to the community. As we said, we organize a lot of events and invite the community to be part of the process. And also using these tools, the portal and the open science community, we are getting in touch with them and find out what they need.
Thank you, Andrea. We have another question from Joanne. Joanne, do you want to take the floor to ask your question to our speakers?
Yeah, I can. So we're working in the Netherlands on some projects and gathering ideas for things that people want to work on. But one of the barriers we're encountering frequently is the lack of capacity. And so I'm just wondering, I presume you also have this as a problem. So I'm just wondering if you had any strategies to address this at the moment.
Is it human or technical capacity or financial? What kind of capacity?
Well, I was thinking of human capacity.
Human. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I suppose it's broader than that. Yeah.
So who would like to start? Maybe Andrea or Mihaela or York? Or yeah, it's York seems ready. So please, York.
Yes,
Okay,
we,
I can give a first shot. Yeah, it's different. It's two different problems. We find lack of financial resources and lack of human resources. Now, the lack of human resources is a well-known problem in all European countries, probably, and especially in the more technical-oriented domain, where it's really difficult to find infrastructure people with proper knowledge in IT and services. So we followed an approach where, so first of all, I have to explain a little bit how the network functions. So we have a lot of organizations engaged, and they are responsible for hiring the staff. So it's not us who hire centrally for all the consortia, but in the consortia, there are the universities, for example, and a university hires for working in the consortium and in NFDI. Okay. So therefore, it's a distributed approach. And I assume that in most cases, this is just the case. It's just project financing. Now, given that nature and the situation, our approach was that we centralize where we offer jobs. So from the NFDI website, we had links to all the currently open job offers. So we just said this was an offer. Dear consortia, if you have job offerings on well-known platforms like Stepstone and the like, why don't you just send us the link and the description of the job? And we are more than happy to post it also on our site. That was the first thing. The second thing was to create a mailing list for jobs where people could subscribe who would be interested. This was basically what we could do centrally. And then individually, the organizations had their own strategies for promoting the open jobs. I wouldn't say that it's an overly successful strategy, but it's the least we can do, frankly spoken. On a separate level, it is of course our mission to make aware what we are doing, like in the seminars of today, where we have a knowledge exchange, but also in Germany, we promote what we are doing. And I think that also contributes to potential job applicants, because what we are, of course, trying to do is to do outreach in the scientific communities to explain, hey, this is really cool what we are doing. And it really has a purpose and a meaning. And if you want to work in such a creative, inspiring, agile environment, why don't you just look on our job offer on our job offer page if there's something around for you? And maybe this also contributes. Having said that, I also have to say many job offers, especially the technical ones, have a couple of weeks, sometimes months before they can be really fulfilled. So we have a similar problem like you. Frankly spoken.
You have a kind of solution to tackle that. Mihaela, I think you wanted to. Yeah.
yes, we are also aware of these problems, in terms of lack of experts and lack of funding for this. But we are at the beginning in this process of implementing open science and fair data, fair principles, and also at the beginning in defining solutions to that kind of problems. We try to offer support, but we are not able to provide technical support, and we know this. Yes, it is a challenge. We learn from other countries' experience and we will pilot different actions in order to find the best way to approach this. We don't have really a solution. We have a few lines for funding from the national plan dedicated to support infrastructures, but we'll see how we will support effectively the development of skills and the technical solution for infrastructures.
And yeah, I think actually, so there will be, I think it's a third of the fourth workshop of this support program is focused on building fair skills. And I think this is exactly what we need everywhere in Europe to make sure we have real experts able to manage with fair data and so what we need to, where we need to put the emphasis is also to how to build and develop training regarding fair data and all these kind of related activities. So, but there will be a workshop on that. So maybe we will have also some answers coming from it.
I wasn't thinking, I was interested in your reacting, thinking about recruitment, because I wasn't actually thinking about recruitment. I was thinking more of on the strategic level. Do we know what capacity we're lacking, or, you know, what is the scale of the problem? And where does that need to be addressed? Is that a funding issue, or is it a policy issue, or a priorities? Yeah. And where within government, ministry, funding, research institutions, where does the responsibility lie to try and make the change? So I was just wondering if there was anything taking place on that level, not on the skills and recruitment and training sort of aspects, which I know also are also lacking, problematic. But I know that, you know, I don't know if was it Baron Mons who once quoted this number of data stewards we needed across Europe, and it was, I don't know, in the thousands. But it's just, I just wondered if anyone was doing anything to look into that or raise this as a strategy discussion at a higher level on how to address this. So I don't know, if there is anything.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the question. That's a different aspect and a very relevant one. And in fact, so we introduced the notion of so-called sections. So these where we talk about cross-cutting topics. And one of our section is exactly training and education, because this is such a, I mean, it's a major topic. I fully agree with all what you said. And so we said we have to deal with that. And it's about standardization of the training material, of course. It's about standardization of the education path for data stewards, but I would foresee there are further job profiles in addition to data stewards that will emerge, and we are taking care about that. We have so-called data competency centers, which is a new funding line where local centers that are universities join together for certain regions, and within that region they take the lead in education, in data competencies, data literacy, and the like. And so what we hope to see is new waves of people that have the capabilities. And you're right, this is a more midterm strategy to increase the number of people that have these skills. We focus on train the trainer concepts, so we do not train at the end of the day ourselves, but our focus is on supporting people in teaching these skills, because we foresee that all different universities, applied universities, and even further partner, they will take up the material, but also the structure of the education courses, and then this will create an impact over time. We see first courses that are being given, We see first for training materials that are more or less standardized, but there's still room for more and potential for more. But I would expect that within the next 2 to 5 years, we will see this much stronger and much more people having this kind of education.
We have a question from Clementine about, did you face reluctance from some research institutions to take part in this initiative, and what were their main concerns? And then we will have a question from Shokri, but let's address the one from Clementine. Who would like to answer first?
I can answer first. So at the beginning, most of the academic representatives were very happy to join Ronoshi initiative. And they were very enthusiastic regarding the activities that we said that we will do there. But unfortunately, we faced a problem that we didn't solve it, at least not at the moment, the financial part, because we are not able to finance research through this initiative, and also because NIFOS project ended, we haven't been able to find another financing source of the activities. This is the reason why things were a little bit not easy with the activities implemented. So yes, I think we had this problem, and it was because of the financial part.
Thank you, Mihaela. I'm sorry, I had to join with my phone because I don't have any, I cannot charge anymore my computer. I don't know why. So I'm sorry for that. So maybe York, you want to answer as well to this question?
Yes. So that was the question about reluctance from research institutions, right?
Exactly.
We experience people who are more than engaged. It's really a vivid community. It's not just one community. It's a number of communities coming together, and sometimes it's difficult to keep track of everything that is ongoing because everybody is so involved and so engaged. So personally, I didn't see really reluctance at any case, but rather how can we get this stuff done so that it solves the problems of research. And I like the spirit. It's just fantastic to work in an environment where all the people are so motivated and highly respectful of each other. It's really a lot of fun. But of course, there are some barriers, entry barriers. And in the long run, I wouldn't say it's reluctance. It's more the challenges ahead of us. One still open issue is how to maintain these services over time and how to maintain the funding for keeping the services running and up to date over time. So as of now, it's an initiative. We have project based funding, but essentially, ultimately, what we want to create with NFDI, and actually also in collaboration with EOSC on a European level, is an infrastructure which is up and running, and the infrastructure has different parts. One thing, of course, is the technical part, but every technical part needs an organizational part, needs people who maintain the services, who keep them up and running, who innovate, who bring in new functionalities, who derive requirements so that the requirements are then transformed into new functionalities and maybe into new services, who take care about shutting down some services over time. So yes, we need this life cycle up and running, and we need a way on finding funding and people to do that over time. At the moment, we have a funding period of 10 years, which is very nice. But for infrastructure, it's a short term. It's just the beginning. So this is an open issue as of now. And of course, we closely follow what is happening on the European level in the EOSC. And there's also so much which is ongoing and so many initiatives like Fair Impact, but also like other projects. And so what we really need to understand is how do we get this thing up and running on a national level, but linked to the European level and
Exactly.
cross-linked with other countries. And this is the difficult part. This is where we have to sometimes go the long road to find consensus. Sometimes it takes longer to have a consensus, but then we have a consensus, and it will lead to a much more sustainable up and running of the whole infrastructure. I hope. Otherwise, it was a waste of time in many discussions, but I don't
No.
believe in that. I don't think so. I think we are progressing, and we are progressing faster now. The pace is getting it's increasing, which I think is a very good sign. So it's more the challenges ahead, which people discuss. It's at this, and they are very engaged at the same time. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think actually you touched a point here because so in the Fair Impact project, we have a task also on organizational interoperability, because we also always mention the technical interoperability between our tools and services, but we also need a kind of interoperability between the organizations who want to work together in the consortium and even outside the European project. And what you just mentioned also is the human interoperability. And we see that actually the what is much more complicated is both the human and the organizational rather than the technical, that actually we can address more or less easily, because we have already solution for that. Yeah. Anyway, we had a question from Shokri as well. Please, Shokri, take the floor.
Yeah, I think that Rana will continue with this, the point that you have already raised about interoperability. So, for example, in my country, mostly the research output are published in some commercial publisher platform. So I don't know if in your model you have predicted or integrated some action in order to integrate those or to integrate those platform in your model and make them interoperable with the system that you are planning. Hope that my question is clear. Otherwise, I could elaborate more.
I think so. Who would like to answer first? Mihaela, Andrea, do you want to start?
We support our infrastructures, the Romanian infrastructures, to become interoperable with and to integrate into EOSC. We don't have a national infrastructure, but we support the existing infrastructures to be interoperable and compatible with EOSC. Through our initiatives, through RONOSCI, through workshops, and in the future trainings. That's what we have in mind for this.
Thanks. York or Sophie, do you want to complement or to give your... Yeah? York, please.
Sophie,
Yeah, it's up to you.
I answered so many questions already. Sophie, do you want to take the question? I'm also happy to take it.
Well, I'm not sure if I got it right, so maybe you
Okay,
can start.
I will elaborate more easily the question. Do you think that the commercial publisher will be the principal actor in your model in developing in the development model that you are using?
I hope not.
if I may. But let's say,
So commercial platforms, if they are involved in our model, right? Is this the question, or?
yeah, if they are involved and if they are the main contributors, I think, if I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I hope not. I think, yeah, I mean, it's always a question because there are already solutions and platforms. But as NFDI, yeah, I mean, it's with open access and open science and the FAIR principles. I think it's the goal of NFDI to develop its own solutions and build own platforms with the partners they are involved from the research institutions and service providers we have in our network. I hope I got it right. The question. Maybe Jörg want to add something.
Yeah, sorry, I got kicked out and just returned a second ago.
Okay.
So in a nutshell,
The question was if we want to involve commercial platforms in NFDI
okay.
for the solutions.
Especially the publishers, but not only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Some of the publishers invest in data infrastructures. Yeah, I think it's also a political question. I mean, without publishers, science wouldn't have been able to publish. So there's a there's a collaboration which is ongoing for decades or not even centuries. We have now come to a point where, at least in Germany, this sometimes has been critically discussed because they became more or less gatekeepers. And the distribution of knowledge through such commercial players became an issue because their prices went higher and higher, and science wasn't capable of financing this any longer in the way it was previously done. So there was a big discussion. The whole process was called deal. Let's make a deal, and they came to new agreements. They made a deal. So currently there is a solution, but we're not sure how long this lasts. And of course, this question becomes also relevant for research data in the future. And our approach is that we want to be open according to standards. So we promote that research data are made available according to the FAIR principles, as open as possible. And if they are closed not for commercial reasons, but they are closed because of GDPR issues or other kinds of issues. And that is a different viewpoint in comparison to commercial players. So I wouldn't exclude that there will be a collaboration, but right at the moment, we don't have a strong collaboration there. I think this is fair to say.
And the third workshop next week, next Thursday, actually, will be dedicated to how to include open access publication in a FAIR national action plan. So probably we will address this question. So it's very good to see that with this first session today, we start to address and to consider other subtopics that are related for building FAIR national implementation action plan. Maybe I would like to continue with a question a bit different, because thank you, Marianne, for sharing the link progressively. That's really kind. Because we address a lot the question of the bottom-up approach and how to involve the community. I would like to ask to the two groups, what are your relations with the government now? How do you work with the government to establish this community and this organization at the national level? So what is your approach? I don't know who would like to start again. Jörg, please. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'm happy to share my knowledge. So how do we work with the government? First of all, the government feeds us. So this is, of course, the nature of the relationship. But also we are frequently in contact to discuss this because, of course, there are further programs like the mentioned data competence centers And we were involved in setting up the scene for these data competency centers, and we are also trying to keep track at least what is happening there and try to co-organize events with the NFDI consortia so they know about each other. That's the least we can do. And apart from that, we also need to explain politics, why it is so important to have better research data access. Not all politicians understand that by nature, which is obvious. Not all of them deal with that every day, for example, but we rely on the sustained funding. So it is our mission also to explain to politics and show what is the benefit of having such an infrastructure. And of course, you need showcases and use cases and success stories and the like, where we actually have the goal to provide such success stories now more and more. They are beginning to come because we now have first services available, and the basic services will underpin that. But I think we still have a way to go until we can show that some research result was done faster or better because there is NFDI and because there's EOSC and because there's initiatives in other countries. But this is my ultimate goal, right? That we make a difference in the life of researchers in a positive way, so that they can focus more on their research questions. They can focus more on the data analysis. They have all the data available. They are aware of the services that are out there. They can use the services easily and access the services and the data within the services very easily. They know how to interdisciplinary work together to solve problems, because these are the biggest challenges that we face as of today. It's the distributed nature of data and services. So it's a lack of overview from a certain point. Then it's a lack of access capabilities for certain kinds of data. They are just not accessible for some reason. And there are multiples of reasons. And then also there's this, how can we work together when we have different data that is completely different? Like in climate research, you have to have a data center and you cannot transfer the data to somewhere else. But everything you want to do with the climate data has to be done within the data center where the climate data is being hosted. So whenever you want to have an interdisciplinary approach, like you want to explore the socioeconomic effects of climate conditions, which is a pressing issue, frankly spoken, then you need some social scientists capable of understanding what are the societal questions, and you need people from climate and environmental studies that know what the data are. And what kind of simulations for future scenarios, for example, there are out there. And then if you want to combine data sets, like you have large-scale population-based studies, and you want to map that to climate projections, then you have to find ways how these people can work together and understand each other, and how the technical infrastructures can be aligned so that you can map the data onto each other. And those are tricky questions all along the way. There's all kinds of stuff that has to be solved. And this is what we're working on. And we have to explain that to politics, because they expect us to solve. Usually, I mean, this is what politics usually expect. By tomorrow, you will show that the world has been a better place. No disrespect. They are running in a different pace sometimes, and their expectations run at a different pace. But of course, building up an infrastructure takes some time, for example, for good reasons. And we have to explain that, and we have to show that there will be results, and there are results, but the results maybe are not what they expect immediately.
Yeah.
And there we have a communication role to play, for example. This is one of our, I would say this is where we spend lots of time when working together with the government. And it's an important thing to do. I mean, it's also fun to do, because you learn a lot about politics and how it works and how their businesses run. And then hopefully we can convince them that it's a good idea to do so in future.
Thank you, Jörg, for the very transparent answer. Andrea, do you want to react, or
That's me.
Okay, sorry, Mihaela, please do.
In our case, it's a hybrid approach. We were involved in the drafting, in the elaboration of the national strategy for research, and we succeed to have a dedicated objective to open science for the first time. So we are in contact permanently with the Ministry of Research and also with the community in our role as a facilitator, a supporter for the community. And also when we created the RONOSCI, we had in mind this hybrid approach. We invited the representatives from the Ministry of Research in RONOSCI meetings for them to be informed about the process, about the needs, about the ideas resulting during these meetings. So yes, we keep close also to the decision making and to the community.
Thank you, Mihaela. So we are approaching the end of the webinar, which is quite unfortunate because we have also, I think there are a lot of other questions. I just would like to answer to Joanne, because you said in the chat regarding your question, I think this is a question that can be addressed to the mentors. And if needed, we can come back. We can come back to the speakers for a specific specification, but probably the other webinars will help you to define the kind of roles and responsibilities needed to build a fair implementation action plan. So normally you should find the answer step by step, thanks to the different webinars. And yeah, Joy just put a question for York about if you work with policy brief. York, can you just answer very, very quickly, and then I will go to the conclusion of the session.
We provided some policy papers, especially to things like the Data Act, but I'm afraid they are in German.
But at least it's a good tool to be used to discuss with the government.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh.
So we have to be a political player, and so we try to also provide some policy papers.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. So regarding the next step, tomorrow will be the second webinar focused on how to engage researchers, how to engage community in the fair, and especially on a national level. So we will start at 10. I already mentioned actually the two next webinar on the open access publication on one side, which will be next Tuesday, not Thursday. I've made a mistake. And then end of February on the skills. I would like to thank you, of course, first the participant, Sophie, York, Mihaela, and Andreas. Thank you very much for your presentation. They completely answered actually to the needs of this webinar. So really thank you. Thank you also for answering to all the questions. Thanks to the participant for the different questions. I also would like to remind everyone that the webinar will be available on YouTube quite soon. And for our 4 applicants which have dedicated support in this program, of course you can meet and contact either your mentors for this session or also Salome and I. We are always there to help for any question. And thanks to the dance team for providing the Zoom link for the work package, Trust IT as well. Salome for the organization, Joy, who is the work package leader of work package 2. I don't know if I forget anyone, but thank you, everyone. It was a great first webinar, so I'm really happy. And see you very soon. Yeah, let's keep in touch.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Suzanne, for being a perfect host.
Thank you, York. Thanks a lot.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.